Hey guys, it's Vampire Mike from Sega CD Universe. Want to do a very quick follow-up now that I've beaten Bloodborne. Um, Slight spoiler alert, I mean, not really, but if you haven't beaten the game or you don't want to hear too much, then maybe not watch this video. So, the first thing I did want to mention was, and I touched upon this during my last Bloodborne video from yesterday, was that the Dark Souls feels like you're a bit higher in regards to going around up on top of roofs and like scaffolding, and felt a little more vertical in certain levels. Where Bloodborne, on the whole, I felt more grounded. That's definitely true by the end of the game. There was one or two areas where I recall going across like planks or certain things, but it just doesn't seem as risky as being up high. There were, like I said, maybe two spots I can think of, where in Dark Souls it really felt like if you were going to certain areas, you were going to fall and die if you didn't watch. Bloodborne didn't feel as much like that. It was a little safer in that regard, more like railings and scaffolding and things holding you up. The other thing I meant to mention was that Dark Souls 3 definitely felt like it had um, more bonfires, where Bloodborne, the levels feel smaller. There's usually the bonfire or the lantern at the beginning of the level, and then there's a lantern sometimes near the end. Actually, no, usually there's not. There's the lantern at the beginning of the level, and then once you get far enough through the level, you unlock a shortcut. So if you die, you go from the lantern at the beginning of the level through the shortcut to usually right near the end of the level. So that's a little different as well. It felt like longer spurts of going through things, worrying about dying because there was no lantern. So that was another thing. Where Dark Souls 3, they felt sometimes like the bonfires were almost on top of each other in some essence. There was an area I remember, can't think of the name right now, near the end, that you can see a bonfire from a bonfire. So kind of funny. I guess they were trying to work out that formula. I did, and I want to backstep a little bit. I got a little more into that whole Celestial Older Ones thing. I was looking into it a little bit, and I guess what I was sort of deeming aliens was more so the H.P. Lovecraft-esque Call of Cthulhu type monsters, which I like more so than like aliens. So I think I was just sort of looking at it differently, but that grew on me. There's a lot of like these tentacled beasts and things driving you insane and grabbing you and stuff. So that got cooler towards the end of the game. Um, there's a character, and I'm not going to name who, that at the end of the game you realize is actually part of the whole bigger picture. And there's three endings to the game. So this character sort of flips the script on you, and you're like, oh shit. I kind of spoiled it for myself because I was looking at like memes online, and there was a meme about it, and I was like, crap, now I know who the last boss is. But there's an ending. So these are like the three endings, sort of, without me getting too spoilery. This character that flips the script on you says to you, you can either um, let go and let me like kill you, and you'll wake up and everything will be fine. You don't have to worry about anything, and this hunt will be over. From what I'm looking at and reading, if you do that, the character just cuts your head off, and then you wake up again, and that's the end of the game. But you're in another hunt, and now you're not like in this, back and forth dream and hunt. Well, you are in the game, but you're sort of this like lost soul sort of at that point. There's some NPCs that started out as hunters that strayed and are no longer in this like dream. You're sort of like that in essence, from what I'm getting, though I could be wrong. The second ending, which is I think what most people probably would have gotten, and this one is kind of spoilery. This is the ending I got. You fight the guy at the end, and then this Call of Cthulhu type beast comes down after you kill this guy and gives you the position of that person. So now you're stuck in this loop, and now you're the sort of human host, kind of orchestrating these hunts, while this Call of Cthulhu demon thing is, I guess, the old one that is, playing you like a puppet on the strings, and you take over for the person you just killed. Pretty cool ending, sort of bad, sort of interesting. Reminded me of Dark Souls, where you keep reigniting the flame. It's sort of like a double-edged sword in Dark Souls. Do you let everything go dark and die, or do you reignite the flame and everything goes back, but repeats itself over and over and over again to where this keeps happening? So sort of reminded me of that a lot. And then the final ending, which I didn't, the secret ending that I didn't get, is there's 4 umbilical cords you can collect. One is from a prostitute that gives birth, and you kill the prostitute and the baby. I did not get that one. There's one that is a boss you kill named Margot's Wet Nurse or Margot's Wet Nurse. I got that one. There's one that's a secret in this like tower where you're on these ledges, and if you jump off the ledge to a certain secret area, you end up in a weird area, and then you find an umbilical cord. That one I did get. And then finally, there's this clinic within the game with this character that's like saving people and helping people. And there's this whole overarching story with the monsters, like these Cthulhu type monsters, are impregnating human women because they can't actually have babies, and they're giving birth to these like demon spawns. Well, that's sort of like the point of the whole umbilical cord thing. And there's this woman who runs this clinic, and if you see her later, she's pregnant and she's like, I think, on a table tied down. And if you kill her, you get the final umbilical cord. Well, if you eat, it sounds very weird. If you eat 3 of the 4 umbilical cords, you become stronger than all these old ones, these like monsters. And at the end of the game, when you kill this character that flipped on you or whatever, and you didn't realize was like the bad guy, when this Cthulhu monster comes to get you, and I watched a video on this, so I found this ending to be pretty interesting. When he comes to get you and then turn you into his puppet and you take the place of the other guy, instead of that happening, you're so strong you reject him, and then you fight this old, demon type thing, and then you're reborn as the old demon type thing, and you become like this, great one because now you're strong. So it's sort of an interesting concept. There's the endings are short but very different, and I wish I had eaten that 3rd umbilical cord and found it. I couldn't find it because they're pretty cool endings. I feel like the Dark Souls endings are a little more ambiguous. The Bloodborne endings were a little more refined. I do like them, and I did overall enjoy more so than Dark Souls the kind of, maybe not the story, but the like setting with the werewolves and vampire type stuff. I thought that was really cool and more up my alley than the medieval stuff, even though on the whole I think I prefer the Dark Souls series. But it was a great game. I really loved Bloodborne, as I said. And if you like the Dark Souls series, I would recommend it. I think it's great. So thank you, Eric, for playing with me, and thank you, Brian, for loaning me your PlayStation. Those are just a couple little things I wanted to mention now that I did beat that last level and beat the last couple bosses. So thanks, guys, for watching. It's Vampire Mike from Sega CD Universe. Be good.